This Christmas, under the glittering lights of Lagos, a secret is growing, one powerful enough to destroy a billionaire empire. Tun thought he only redesigned homes. He never knew he was redesigning destinies. Iridi thought she had survived every scandal, until she discovered the one truth that could cost her everything. A forbidden love. A billionaire family at war. A pregnancy nobody was meant to know about. And a board ready to strike in the shadows. When power meets passion, someone always pays the price. But who will fall first? If you want more thrilling twists from this story, hit like, subscribe, and turn on notifications, so you don't miss the next chapter of love, betrayal, and danger. More suspense is coming. Stay tuned. The rain had just stopped in Lagos when Tunde Adeyemi stepped into his Lekki showroom that morning. The floors were polished, the warm lights reflected off framed Yoruba murals, and the scent of cedar diffusers floated through the air. Everything looked perfect, until he realized he wasn't alone. She stood in the center of the room like a painting come to life. A woman dressed fully in white. Graceful. Elegant. Untouchable. Her coral beads shimmered against her skin. The gold clasp on her handbag glowed softly under the downlights. And when she looked up at him, slowly, intentionally, Tun felt something shift in the atmosphere. Like a silent drum beat only he could hear. "Are you the owner?" she asked, her voice smooth but commanding. "Yes, ma. Welcome. My name is Tunde." He tried to keep his tone steady, but something about her presence made his heartbeat quicken. She walked slowly, studying every curated detail of the space. The minimalist gray sofa set, the carved wood accent table, the matte black wall lights shaped like spearheads. She touched nothing, but it felt as if she owned everything. "You designed all this?" she asked again. "Yes." A small, almost invisible smile touched her lips. Iridi Alade. The name hit him like a shock. The Iridi Alade. The billionaire widow. The Iron Queen of Alade Global. A woman who rarely appeared in public without a security escort. Yet here she was, alone, examining his work. She continued walking. Her heels clicked softly on the marble floor. "I want my Ikoyi penthouse redesigned before Christmas," she said. "Modern. Bold. Something people will talk about." Tun swallowed. That project would change his career forever. "I can do that for you, ma," he managed. But she had already turned away, her eyes fixed on the large piece hanging on the wall, an abstract artwork in deep reds and golds. She touched the frame gently. "People talk too much," she murmured. "Especially in this city." She paused, then looked back at him. "Do you have time for a private consultation tonight?" "Tonight?" Tun blinked. He had other clients scheduled, but none of them could compare to the woman standing before him like a secret wrapped in wealth. "Yes, it'll be available." "Good." She stepped closer, so close he could smell her perfume, soft and warm like vanilla and rain. "Send me your designs before 5. And Tunde, make it personal." Before he could ask what she meant, her phone buzzed. She glanced at it, frowned, and her entire demeanor changed, sharper, colder. "Family," she said simply. "Always dramatic." Then she walked out, leaving the showroom door swinging gently behind her. Tun stood in the middle of the room, breathing in the silence she left behind. Something about that woman tugged at him. Not just her elegance. Not her wealth. Something deeper. Something dangerous. He looked at the clock. 4:03 p.m. He had less than an hour to prove to her, and to himself, that he was worthy of entering her world. But he didn't know that stepping into Iridi Alade life was like stepping into a storm. A storm that had already swallowed stronger men. A storm that would soon pull him in completely. The drive to Ikoyi felt different that night. Tunde had been to wealthy homes before, but the Alade penthouse wasn't just wealth. It was power sitting on prime real estate. A soft Harmattan breeze brushed against him as he stepped out of the elevator and faced the tall, matte black door. The corridor was silent, the kind of silence that belonged to people who owned too much to worry. He knocked once. The door opened instantly. A young maid, her face stiff with fear or discipline, or both, gestured him inside. "Madam is expecting you, sir." The penthouse opened up like a scene from a dream. Floor-to-ceiling glass windows overlooked the dark lagoon, city lights glittering like scattered diamonds. The interior was sleek, almost cold. Marble floors, silver sculptures, and a silence that pressed against his skin. But the coldness wasn't design. It was the atmosphere. As if the house itself held secrets. He had barely taken 3 steps when he heard voices, heated, sharp, slicing through the air. "You're not thinking clearly, Mum." A woman's voice. Young. Angry. "I am thinking more clearly than everyone who keeps trying to control my life," another voice replied, calm, firm. "Iridi." Tund froze. The argument was happening behind a partially open door down the hallway. The maid noticed his hesitation and quickly led him toward the living room, whispering nervously, "It's her daughter. They've been fighting since last night." He barely had time to process before the door swung open. A tall woman in her 30s stormed into the living room, her eyes blazing. Her gaze landed on Tund and narrowed immediately. "You're the designer?" she asked, dripping disbelief. He nodded. She forced a fake smile. "How convenient." She brushed past him and left through the elevator without saying goodbye. The tension she left behind clung to the air like smoke. Then Iridi emerged. She was dressed differently, casual this time. A silky wine-colored lounge set, her hair wrapped in a subtle turban. Softer. Warmer. But her eyes carried a storm. "I'm sorry you had to see that," she said. "No problem, Ma," Tund replied. "Families fight." She smiled. "A nice thought. But in my world, fights rarely end at words." She motioned for him to sit. He obeyed. When she sat across from him, the city lights framed her in gold. She looked powerful and tired at the same time. "Show me what you brought." Tund opened his tablet and displayed his concepts. Warm-toned lighting, a hybrid of modern minimalist decor layered with African textures, Christmas ornamentation that blended subtle luxury with cultural flair. She studied each design silently. Then she looked up at him, not at the screen. At him. "You understand me," she said softly. He felt heat rise in his chest. "I just designed by emotion, Ma." "And what emotion did you use for this?" He hesitated. He wanted to lie. He wanted to be professional. But something about her made honesty unavoidable. "Strength," he said. "And loneliness." Her eyes flickered, just a second, but enough for him to see he was right. She leaned back, exhaling slowly. "People forget that even the powerful get tired," she murmured. Before he could answer, her phone buzzed sharply. She glanced at it. Her face hardened. Then she turned the phone upside down and faced him again. "Walk with me." She stood and led him toward the terrace. Cold harmattan wind rushed in as she slid the glass door open. The view was breathtaking, Ikoyi Bridge glowing like a ribbon of fire. But her next words cut through the beauty. "I know why my board will fight this redesign," she said. "They think it means I'm making changes. Preparing for something." She looked him dead in the eyes. "They fear what they cannot control." Tund swallowed. "Are you preparing for something, Ma?" A slow smile curved her lips, mysterious, knowing. "Yes. Something they won't see coming." Tund felt a strange shiver run through him, excitement mixed with danger. She stepped closer, the breeze lifting her scarf slightly. "Work closely with me, Tund. This project will require you. More than you think." Her voice dropped, low, almost intimate. "And when things begin to change, don't let fear make you run. Most people run." He held her gaze. "I want." Her smile deepened, like she had just chosen him for something bigger than the penthouse. Something he didn't yet understand. "Good," she whispered. "Then let's begin." But Tund didn't know. That night was the first step into a future that would shake every corner of her empire and his life. The next morning, the sunshine over Lagos did little to calm Tund's nerves. He stood in front of the mirror in his one-bedroom apartment in Surulere, adjusting his collar for the 10th time. He wasn't sure why. He had met wealthy clients before, worked in luxurious estates before. But with Iridi, it felt different. He felt watched, pulled, chosen. Even his assistant noticed as they organized the day's files. "Guy, why you day shine teeth since yesterday?" Fola asked with a smirk. Tund brushed him off. "It's a big contract. Focus." But it wasn't the contract making his stomach twist. It was the woman behind it. And the way she had looked at him last night. Like she saw more than he ever allowed people to see. Still, he packed up his materials and made his way back to Ikoyi. Another consultation. Another long evening. When he arrived at the penthouse, something was different. Security. A man in a dark suit stood by the elevator, scanning him from head to toe. "Tund Adeyemi?" "Yes. You're expected." As the elevator rose, Tund felt his chest tighten. Why security today? Was something wrong? The doors opened to a scene he hadn't expected. A long dining table filled with papers. 2 lawyers. Her personal assistant. And at the head of the table, Iridi, looking like she had already fought 3 battles before breakfast. Her eyes softened slightly when she saw him. "Come," she said. "I need your help." "Help? With what?" He stepped closer and realized the papers on the table weren't design plans. They were board resolutions, legal memos, and urgent notices. Her assistant shifted nervously. "They called an emergency vote, Ma. Let them vote, she replied coldly. A lawyer leaned in. With respect, madam, they want to remove you as CEO. Your daughter is supporting the motion. Tun felt the air freeze. Her daughter? The same woman who walked out yesterday? The lawyer continued, voice low and cautious. They claim you're emotionally compromised. Those words cut through the room. Compromised. Weak. Unfit. Irene closed her eyes for a moment, just briefly, and when she opened them, a different woman stared out. Steel. Fire. And then she said something no one expected. Tun, follow me. She walked out to the balcony, not waiting to see if he obeyed. He followed. Outside, the December wind swept through her silk robe, the Christmas lights she had already installed blinking softly across the glass railing. Below them, the city moved like it didn't know a war was beginning. She gripped the railing, knuckles white. They want to destroy me, she said. They've been waiting for a weakness. Just one. Tund hesitated. You don't look weak to me. She gave a small, humorless laugh. That's because you're seeing me now. Not the parts one hide. For the first time he saw her shoulders shake. Not from fear. From controlled anger. You know why they're doing this? She asked. No, ma. She turned to him fully. Because I told them I wanted to redesign my home. Because I smiled yesterday. Because I showed happiness. The word happiness sounded strange on her tongue. Like something fragile. Forbidden. They think I must not change, she whispered. Because change means I still have a life of my own. A heart. She stepped closer. And that terrifies them. Tun swallowed hard. Maybe they just fear losing power. She studied him, really studied him, as if searching his face for a truth she hoped to find. You speak boldly, she murmured. It's the truth. The wind blew again, carrying her perfume to him. Soft, warm, dangerously comforting. She didn't step away. Tund, she said quietly, I want you to stay close to this project. Closer than we planned. There are things coming. Decisions I will need to make. And I need someone who isn't part of that world to stand beside me. He felt his pulse quicken. Are you sure you want me that involved? She looked into his eyes, deep, steady, almost piercing. Yes. You don't understand yet, but I chose you for more than design. Silence. The kind of silence where something important begins. Then a voice cut through the moment. Madam, they're ready for the vote. She exhaled, straightened her robe, and her cold composure slid back over her like armor. But before she walked away, she touched his wrist lightly. A simple touch. Yet it felt like a spark sewing their fates together. Don't leave, she said softly. I might need you after. And she disappeared inside to face the board. Leaving Tund alone with the wind, the Christmas lights, and a growing certainty. Whatever was coming. He was already too deep to walk away. Tund waited in the living room, heart beating out of rhythm. The penthouse felt too quiet. Too still. As if the walls themselves were holding their breath. From down the hallway came the muffled voices of an argument, sharp, tense, rising and falling like waves during a storm. He couldn't make out the words, but he didn't need to. This wasn't just a board meeting. It was a battlefield. He walked slowly toward the Christmas tree he had helped conceptualize earlier. A tall, elegant fir draped with gold ornaments, cowrie-shaped bulbs, and soft candle-like lights. It felt warm, festive, hopeful. But tonight it looked strangely out of place. Too peaceful for a house preparing for war. The voices grew louder. Then suddenly, a door slammed. Art. Tun jumped. Footsteps marched toward the living room, echoing with fury. Ayerta's daughter emerged first. Her face was flushed with anger, eyes wet but venomous. She pointed at Tund as if he were a stain on her mother's life. All this began the moment you walked in, she hissed. Tund blinked. I don't understand. You don't belong here. You're a distraction my mother cannot afford. Before he could respond, she pushed past him and headed for the elevator, muttering to someone on the phone, Tell the board I'm ready to sign the papers. No, I don't care if she's still in the meeting, she's lost. Ding. The elevator doors closed. Silence returned. A heavy, dangerous silence. Then Irene appeared. Her steps were slow as she approached, and when she entered the living room, Tund felt the breath leave his chest. She looked defeated. Not broken, but wounded. Her composure, normally flawless, was cracked. Her voice was low. It's done. Tund stepped closer. They voted? Yes. And? A long pause. She looked up at him with tired eyes that held a universe of battles. They voted to remove me. The words hit him harder than he expected. Harder than they should have. He searched her face, looking for anger, fear, panic. But instead he saw something else. Resolve. They think they won, she said quietly. Because they moved first. Her hands trembled, Not with fear, but with restrained fury. They think I am alone. She lifted her chin slightly. But they have forgotten who I am. Tun felt a shiver. Madam, what are you planning? She turned away, stared out at the city lights below. For 30 years I built an empire in a world obsessed with my downfall. Men plotted behind my back. Women whispered about me. The board waited for me to grow weak. She inhaled deeply. Tonight they pulled the trigger. She looked over her shoulder at him. So tomorrow, I pull mine. Tun felt heat rise through his chest, fear mixed with admiration. And what do you need me to do? He asked. She turned fully to him, stepping closer, close enough that he could see the faint shimmer of tears she refused to let fall. Her voice softened. I need you to stay. Just tonight. He hesitated. Not because he didn't want to, but because her emotions suddenly felt too raw. Are you sure it's safe? He asked. She let out a low, humorless laugh. Safe? She walked past him into the kitchen, opened a drawer, and removed a white envelope sealed with an embossed crest. She held it up. This, she said, tapping it lightly, is what the board fears most. Tun frowned. What is it? Her eyes glimmered with something dangerously close to satisfaction. My next move. She placed the envelope on the marble counter gently, like one would place a loaded gun. They don't know it yet. But tonight they made a mistake. The room fell silent again. Then she turned back to him, calmer now. Call me. Sit with me. Just talk. I don't want to be in my head tonight. He followed her to the soft velvet sofa, sat beside her as she exhaled long and slow, letting the weight of the boardroom fall off her shoulders. Outside, the harmattan wind howled against the glass. Inside, the Christmas lights cast warm shadows over her face. And for the first time, Tun realized something. This wasn't just business. This wasn't client and designer. This was two lives on a collision course, and whatever came next would change both of them forever. The penthouse was too quiet. The city below buzzed with night energy, cars honking, distant laughter, the rhythmic pulse of Lagos nightlife. But inside Iridi Alada home, silence clung to the air like something waiting to be broken. Tun's eyes kept drifting to the white envelope on the marble counter. The seal glimmered under the warm lights. Bolt. Unopened. A silent threat. What's inside? He finally asked. Iridi didn't answer immediately. She sat back on the velvet sofa, legs crossed, cradling a glass of wine she hadn't touched. The Christmas lights reflected off the glass, scattering gold patterns across her skin. She looked powerful even in stillness. Too powerful for the weariness in her eyes. It's my protection, she said at last. And my revenge. Tun frowned slightly. Against your own board? A bitter smile tugged at her mouth. You don't topple a queen in her castle without consequences. She stood slowly, her silk robe whispering against the sofa. Her steps were measured as she walked to the counter and picked up the envelope. She returned to him, close, almost too close, and held it out. You want to see it? His breath caught. This wasn't design work anymore. This wasn't business. This was trust. Dangerous trust. Are you sure you want me to? He asked. Her eyes locked onto his. No hesitation. No doubt. If I didn't want you to, she said softly, I wouldn't have asked you to stay tonight. He took the envelope. His fingers brushed hers, lightly. But the contact buzzed through both of them like electricity. He cleared his throat, trying to steady himself. May I? She nodded. Tun broke the seal. Inside were several documents, neatly arranged, each stamped and signed. He scanned the first page and his eyes widened. Iridi, he whispered. This is... Yes. She turned away, looking out through the glass wall at the glittering lagoon. I transferred majority shares of the company to a trust, she said quietly. My trust. My rules. Tun blinked. You mean? I'm no longer under their control. Even if they remove me as CEO, the company still belongs to me. His jaw tightened. So the vote today. It was useless. Oh, it worked exactly as they planned, she said. They thought they were stripping me of power. She raised her chin slightly. But tonight I stripped them of relevance. Tun stared at her, stunned. You planned this? She turned slowly, meeting his gaze. I've been planning it for months. Why not fight openly? Because they expect me to fight like them. Her eyes softened, but only slightly. And I don't fight battles I can outsmart. She moved closer again, close enough that he could see the faint shimmer of tears she refused to let fall. When my husband died, she said, everyone thought I would crumble. The board tried to box me in. My children tried to manage me like some fragile ornament. Her voice thickened with memory. They forgot who built this empire. Who wrote the policies. Who negotiated the deals? Who held the entire company on her shoulders? She closed her eyes for a moment, pain flickering across her face. And now I'm tired of being the only one fighting. Tun swallowed, emotion rising in his chest. You're not alone, he said quietly. She opened her eyes, slowly, as if afraid to believe him, and something in them softened. Tun, why are you really helping me? The question hit him. He searched for the right words, professional ones, safe ones. But the truth slipped out before he could stop it. Because I care. Silence. Her breath hitched just slightly. Tun. She stepped even closer, the space between them shrinking until he could feel the warmth of her body through the thin fabric of her robe. You don't know what caring for me will cost you, she whispered. Let me decide that, he replied. Her eyes shimmered. For the first time since he met her, she looked human, vulnerable, lonely. She reached out, slowly touching his hand. Her fingers were warm, soft, searching. But before either of them could speak further, a loud crash echoed from the hallway. They both jerked around. The sound had come from near the private office. Another crash. Tun stood instantly. What was that? Aerta's face darkened. She turned toward the sound, jaw tightening. They're here. Oh. She looked him in the eyes. The board didn't leave peacefully. Another crash. Louder. This time, the sound of something being forced open. Tun moved instinctively in front of her. Iridi, stay behind me. She grabbed his arm. No. If they're here, they're not here to intimidate me. They're here to find that envelope. Her eyes flicked to the documents still lying open on the sofa. And suddenly, everything inside her snapped back into steel. Hide it, she whispered fiercely. Now. Tun grabbed the documents and shoved them under the cushions just as heavy footsteps approached the living room. Iridi straightened her robe, raised her chin, pulled her power around her like armor. The footsteps stopped right outside. Then, the door handle turned. The door handle twisted slowly, deliberately, like someone testing how much resistance lay on the other side. Tun felt his muscles tighten. He shifted his stance slightly, placing himself between Iridi and the door. He could feel her breath behind him, controlled, steady but trembling at the edges. The handle turned again. Then, bang. The door flew open. 3 men stepped in. Not thugs, no. Worse. Board members. Dressed in suits, confidence swollen with entitlement. At the front was Chief Alawale Akintayo, the man who had led the vote. His face carried that arrogant calm of someone who believed the world owed him obedience. Trespassing, Chief? Iridi said, her voice cutting through the air like a blade. Even for you, this is bold. Chief Alawale smiled. A slow, oily smile. We were concerned for your safety, Iridi. After the unfortunate events of this evening. No. She stepped forward, shoulders squared. You came to find something. His smile faded. And in the silence that followed, the truth settled over the room like dust. They weren't even pretending. Tun's fists clenched. Chief Olawale's eyes drifted around the penthouse, slowly, hungrily, scanning shelves, tables, counters. Hunting. We're leaving with what belongs to the company, he said. And what would that be? Iridi asked. A certain envelope. Tun's pulse spiked. He felt Iridi move closer behind him, just a brush of her shoulder against his back. She didn't say a word, but the message was clear. Don't react. Not yet. Chief Alawale stepped deeper into the living room, his 2 associates spreading behind him. Search the study, he ordered without looking back. The 2 men turned toward the hallway. No one is searching my home, Iridi said sharply. Alawale turned back to her, handling her defiance like a minor inconvenience. This is no longer your home, Iridi. You lost that vote. You're a liability now, emotionally compromised and making irrational choices. His eyes flicked to Tun. And this, toy, is proof. Something in Tun snapped. Watch your mouth, he said. Olawale's head whipped toward him, surprise flashing across his face. He didn't expect Tun to speak. And who are you, Alawale sneered, to tell me how to speak in my colleague's house? Someone who won't let you disrespect her. Olawale's eyes hardened. You're nobody. Tun stepped closer. Maybe. But am the nobody standing between you and that envelope? The room froze. Olawale's gaze sharpened, calculating. Then he laughed softly. You think you're protecting her? He leaned in. You're just her distraction. Tun didn't blink. Then be distracted. The tension snapped like a wire. Olawale's smile vanished. He raised a hand, signaling the 2 men. Search the entire place. They moved. Aerta's voice sliced through the room. Take one more step, she said, and he'll have you arrested. For what? Allowale scoffed. Entering a property the company pays for? For breaking and entering, Tun shot back. There's CCTV in the hallway. The two men froze. Allowale stiffened. Tun pressed on. And cameras on the elevator. He pointed to the corner of the living room. And 3 more in here. This time it was Allowale who glanced around, suddenly unsure. You wouldn't dare involve the police, Allowale hissed. It'll ruin your image. Maybe, Iridi replied calmly. But it will destroy yours. Silence. The kind of silence where pride and fear wage war. One of the board members stepped forward. Chief, maybe we should. No, Allowale snapped. But doubt had already cracked his confidence. Iridi stepped beside Tund, close enough their shoulders touched. Her voice was steady, royal. You walk out now, she said. And I may still consider negotiating a peaceful transition. Allowale's nostrils flared. He looked from her. To Tund. To the envelope-shaped bulge under the sofa cushion. He knew. But he couldn't touch it. Not tonight. He straightened his tie, forcing arrogance back into his posture. This isn't over, he said coldly. On the contrary, Iridi replied. It just ended. Allowale turned sharply and motioned for the others. They filed out, tension trailing behind them like smoke. The door finally slammed shut. The room held its breath. Tund exhaled slowly. You okay? Iridi didn't answer at first. Instead, she walked toward the door, locked it, and double-checked it. Her hands shook, barely but enough for Tund to notice. When she turned back to him, her strong facade cracked for just one heartbeat. One day, she whispered, they'll try again. And they'll come harder. Tund stepped closer. Then I'll stand with you. Harder. Her eyes met his. For the first time, she didn't hide anything. Not the fear. Not the strength. Not the gratitude. Not the pull between them that neither could deny anymore. Tund. She breathed. He moved closer, slowly, close enough to feel her warmth, her breath, the fragile storm in her chest. Her hand brushed his. Not accidental. Not hesitant. Invitation. She whispered, don't leave. And Tund knew. This night wasn't over. Not the danger. Not the connection. Not the story binding their lives together. In fact, it had only just begun. The board thinks they've won. Iridi thinks she's safe. Tund thinks the worst is over. But they're wrong. Because the night isn't done with them. A hidden camera will catch something no one expected. A betrayal will come from inside the family. And a stranger watching from the shadows will make his first move. The envelope is no longer the only secret in that penthouse. Something darker is waiting. When the lights go out, someone won't make it through the night. Like subscribe. If you want to catch the next twist, hit like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. More danger. More romance. More secrets. The story is about to explode. Stay tuned.